Do you know the difference between the music industry and the music business? Is there even a difference? I know a lot of artists use these terms interchangeably. I know I'm guilty of doing that. But what if I told you they were two separate things? In fact, if we understood what those two different things were, we could better operate inside of our own careers because we would have an actual understanding of what's going on. See, if we're using these terms interchangeably, that shows that there's a lot of brainwashing going on inside of this business, and I want to break that down for you. And so in today's video, I'm going to give you the 3 steps to understanding the difference between the music business and the music industry and how you can take advantage of that, okay? So the first thing that we need to understand is that the music industry, this is an easy way to remember it, the music industry are the institutions, right? Industry institutions. What do I mean by institutions? Well, you need to think about it like this. Institutions are kind of like the gatekeepers to any given domain, but that's the thing. They gatekeep for their own interests. So I want you to think of like a record label, a radio station, and these distributors, right? They're doing this for their own interests. And institutions are glorified in our media all the time. How many movies, songs, TV shows have you seen where record labels are brought up? It's like, oh, the person's going to have the big break. We're going to get him signed with a manager, get him signed with a record label. There's all these stories about how people make it, and it usually involves a record label, a manager, some kind of thing like that where the artist signs a deal, they sign a contract. And what they find out very quickly, the artists they find out, is that those contracts weren't exactly built to be in their favor. In fact, those contracts are actually pretty one-sided 90% of the time. And if you look through the history of this industry, you'll see a very consistent pattern of people being manipulated and taken advantage of because there's this institution that is gatekeeping access to a particular distribution network, right? So for instance, for a long time, if you wanted to get on the radio and start getting massive spins, and this is still true to today, if you want to get massive spins on the radio, you have to be signed. It is a rare thing. I think even though it is rare, I think if you do want to be on the radio, you should strive to be the rare case. But the rare case is an independent artist who has blown up so much on social media and everywhere else that it's kind of like if we're not playing this song, people are already requesting it, and if we're not playing it, we kind of look like the one radio station that's not playing this very popular song, right? That's what you should strive to do if it's a goal of yours to be on radio. But if you want to just, no, we're going to figure out how to go through the label and all that stuff, yeah, that's the way that they want you to do it. That's the way they try to set everything up so they can gatekeep access to the distribution network. And there's a thing that we've talked about on this channel where radio royalties are different from streaming royalties. They're a whole different royalty category altogether. This is broadcasting royalties over here on the radio side, where it's streaming on-demand royalties over here on the other side. And from a legal perspective, those things are different. And so what has happened throughout time is that you've seen labels in these big institutions. They try to get this positioning in the market where they have total control to the access to the thing everybody wants. And you can see where this has led, Diddy. People getting in power where they shouldn't be and abusing that power. And I don't think people understand, like they hopefully understand now because of all the stories that have come out, verifying it. But people have always thought, no, I need to go down there, I need to get signed, I need to get hooked up with these institutions. But institutions naturally, this is something the economist Thomas Sowell talks about, is they have their own incentives, right? And they have their own interests to service, right? And so what you find is that they create these little closed systems that they control, and to get access to, you have to do basically whatever they say. There's a disproportionate power play here, where an artist back in the day would come up to get a record deal, and they didn't have any real negotiating or leveraging power because the label was the one with all the money to pay for music videos and marketing and all this kind of stuff, right? So what you find is that institutions have the proclivity to try and centralize things, centralize control. They're doing it with Spotify. They tried to get in and start buying shares of Spotify, starting to negotiate higher royalty payouts for label-based artists. Now, granted, it's only like 30% more, but still, I mean, it's you see how institutions behave. But now that I've talked about the industry, because now everyone hopefully is like, yeah, I totally see that, and I've talked to people who have been in it. Like, I've been signed twice, y'all. I've had a manager. I've done the whole booking agency thing, and like, booking agents I think are actually good if you find the right one, by the way. I just want to make that disclaimer. I've just had some bad ones. But on those other sides, I've been through all these different systems, and I see some of the things that institutions do where they will have an insider in the radio station that will juice stats for an artist, and then they'll turn around and give those stats to the artist as some sort of ego boost of like, hey, look how good you're doing on these indicator charts. And so the artist feels all good about themselves and like it was worth giving the label a bunch of money, you know, and all this kind of different stuff. And that's the behavior that those are the outcomes that we get based on the incentives created when you have this closed system that are manned and controlled by the institutions. Now, what's the business? I've talked about the music industry. What's the music business then? Well, the music business is simply the economics, right? The exchange in value that an artist has with their fans, with a sync license, what's the term? The library, right? Those kind of different things. That free value exchange, and when I say free, I mean as in voluntary, right? Not free as in $0, but that voluntary value exchange where an artist says, hey, I have a show, the tickets are $10, and the fan is like, okay, I will gladly exchange my $10 for the value of your show. That's a value exchange. The artist says, hey, I have an offer with a t-shirt and a blah, 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 blah. The fan says, hey, that's cool. I want that. I'm willing to give my money up to get that cool offer that my favorite artist has or an artist that I like has. That is the value exchanges that build the entire industry of, and I don't mean the music industry like I'm talking about, but build the entire economic industry of music, which really falls under the entertainment business. But in music's little subsection, it's built up of transactions. If you look at people like Ray Dalio, he breaks down this process in a great video called How the Economic Machine Works. It's about half an hour, and it's totally worth it. It's a great, great education on how money really works. But fundamentally, what's happening is that a whole industry is built up of transactions between people, right? Between artist and fan, between artist and distributor, right? Because we got to pay TuneCore to, do these kind of things. Those transactions and value exchanges are the whole foundation of the music business, okay? So what we understand now is that as time has gone on, we're in this centralized position for many, many, many decades, and then technology comes. This is something that Milton Friedman talks about, where technology actually liberates people to act more efficiently, and so therefore people can get more done with less. So artists, instead of having to have hundreds of thousands of dollars for a big movie set for a music video, like, back in the day, labels would shell out a lot of money to get these cool music videos. But then the technology became accessible enough that independent artists could start producing their own independent films. Sure, they weren't at the quality of like movie level, but they were still able to create stuff that got themselves out there and put the marketing out there to get a name made for themselves. And that's the beauty of what's happened over time, is more technology is continually coming out, especially with AI. I know a lot of musicians are scared of AI, and that's a subject for a whole nother video, but one thing I will say about AI is this. There are so many tools out there that help you do what you're trying to do better, and that excites me, and it hopefully will excite you more than the potential doomsday stuff that potentially might one day get there one day. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's tangible tools in front of us right now. Like, ChatGPT is free, and if you don't have ChatGPT, I really don't understand why not. Because it's better than Google. I'll tell you that right now. I get answers way better. I don't even use Google anymore. I don't know why people would use Google, but anyway, what I'm saying is there's tools in front of us right now that we can use to help us come up with ideas better, whether you're trying to come up with content ideas, ideas for a song, help with lyrics, you're trying to help finish a lyric. You can do all this kind of stuff utilizing the tools that are in front of you. And so maybe back in the day, you would have someone who's a good musician, but maybe they're not a great writer. So they would have to come in and bring writers. Well, that is a great function. I think songwriters serve a great purpose because there's a genuinely big amount of people that are performers, but they're not really writers, right? Think of the Temptations. I love the Temptations, but they didn't write any of those songs. Those songs were written by like Smokey Robinson and Norman Whitfield. Like, they didn't write those songs, but they're performers and everybody knows them for those songs. You know that there's people in the music business now who have written songs for other big artists. Maybe think of like Chris Stapleton. He didn't have any solo material. For a long time, he just wrote songs for other people. So I don't want to diminish the role that songwriters have. But if it's one thing for songwriters to go and try and find people that would be best fit with their songs, and it's another thing to bring in a songwriter, which labels would do all the time. They would bring in writers because they're like, I don't believe in this artist's vision, so I'm going to bring in a writer to help them figure it out, you know? And sometimes that could be a good thing, but I want to give an example like in my own world, like 3 Days Grace. That's a big popular rock band. They had some big hits in the early 2000s and stuff, but what people don't understand is that around 2012, after some big albums, they wanted to follow it up. So what happened? They brought in country Nashville songwriters to help them write this record that came out called Transit of Venus. And you could tell lyrically the difference between a whole album lyrically written by Adam Gontier versus the album where there was songwriters that came in. It was just pretty apparent. And you could start to see that was more something the label did out of potential insecurity of like, I don't know if I believe in this new product. We need to have a songwriter come in and fix this up. Well, AI could help a lot of struggling songwriters figure out things that they would normally feel hopeless about, right? So, okay, enough talking about AI. The whole point, though, is as artists, we need to figure out how to become more productive. But not just more productive in the sense of like hustle culture, where we're just going to do more, do more, do more. That's not really what I want to advocate. I would like you to do, do less better, right? Limit your activities to the 20% of things that actually make a difference as opposed to the 80% of things that don't make a difference. That's the 80-20 principle. Some people call that the Pareto principle, right? So the whole idea here is we need to figure out, okay, this new technological landscape is in front of me. And what do I do with this technological landscape? Do I sit idly by as new innovations are created to help me and I sit on my hands because I yearn for the days where I didn't have to work as hard? I want to give you an example, guys. This is kind of a heavy example, but it really paints something true and deep. So there was a defector out of North Korea, okay? And she comes over here and she'd been through some stuff that I'm not going to say in this video because it's pretty harrowing. But her name is Naomi Park, right? And she talks about this story in detail, and it's pretty graphic. And you understand something that happened is when she got to America, the burden, think about like living in North Korea for a second. Everything is decided for you. You don't have to think. That's the goal of the government, is for you not to think and just do what they want you to do and just be like cogs in the machine and just go, 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 go. Well, she was now in a country where you had now a responsibility paired with this freedom. And there were moments, I think about this, there were moments because that was such a new concept to her based on where she had just escaped and lived all her life, that it almost created this sense of like, I would almost rather have people make decisions for me. I would rather just go back. And I think that mindset is very analogous to how artists are with labels. There's almost this, yes, we have a burden now. We have a burden of having to do more stuff on the business side, because usually back in the day, we could just hand that off to the executives in the industry. But once we gave them too much power because we didn't understand the power of understanding how the business works for yourself, we didn't understand how much we were giving away whenever we signed those contracts. And for years and years, artists have been literally abused in the process. But now you have artists of the new generation that are essentially yearning for a state where they don't have to have the responsibility, but yet they'll sacrifice the freedom in exchange for having the label take care of everything. And I would say that we have to step up. We have to recognize that, yes, this new technological landscape that we live in has provided for us more opportunity than ever. But like Jordan Peterson says, you got to stand up straight, put your head up and back and face what's in front of you with the best of your abilities. But you have to learn the skills, right? You have to commit to learn how this works. So you have to figure out, okay, if the music business is just compiled of multiple transactions between fans and artists and venues and artists and all this stuff, how do I start getting some of those to flow my way? And that's when you start to study things like marketing, selling, entrepreneurship, generally speaking. You start to learn those things. And when you commit to learn that, I guarantee you two things. One, you will not lose any connection to your art in the process. Yes, there will be times where I've, for instance, had to work really hard, and so I didn't get to play my guitar for a couple days. Listen, I've been playing my guitar for like 20 years. I love my guitar. And yeah, there's times I work really hard, but then I come back to it and there's like this joy and I just pick up and creativity flows. It's not like I pick it up and I'm like, I forgot how to do it because I studied marketing and selling. That's not how this works. So I guarantee that by pursuing and understanding entrepreneurship, you will maintain integrity with your art as long as you don't, start viewing things in sort of a jumbled kind of way where you make the art all about the money as opposed to making the art about the art and the business about the business. You can keep those things compartmentalized, but you have to have both of them working together to have something that's actually going to get you anywhere, right? Because if you don't have good music, well, good luck. You can just have insanely dramatic marketing. You'll be like Dude Ranch. No, I'm just kidding. Please don't look that up. The idea here, though, is that you need to figure out the skills necessary to get you those results that you're going for. Now, for some people, they could care less how much money they make. So for them, maybe selling is never going to be an issue. I would question how you're going to grow, but that's some people's motives. Okay, but every single person needs to learn marketing. Every single person needs to learn marketing and how that works and how human psychology works and like all that kind of good stuff. I'm a psychology nerd. That's like half the books over in my shelf over here are psychology related books, persuasion, sales books, because I'm just interested in the human mind and why it makes the decisions that it does. And that's helped inform a lot of different marketing choices that have been beneficial. And guess what? It didn't affect our songwriting. We just kept writing the songs that we were writing, but now we had a better way to promote it, right? Back in the day, we had merchandise, but when we learned how to sell merchandise, we just figured out how to sell more of what we already had. When we learned how to write better songs, we were just taking a process that we were doing of writing songs by jamming together and just figured out how to do that better. You need to have this continual growth mindset and understand that you can, in fact, learn these skills. So I hope you are feeling confident enough in yourself to know that, like, if you can learn an instrument, you can learn how to sing, you learn how to rap, you learn how to drum, play the keyboard, you learn how to do these things, then you can learn marketing. You can learn sales. Trust me, human psychology has been the same for 10,000, 100,000. It's been the same for many, many years. Okay? I don't think it's going to be changing anytime soon. So you can learn a lot with just this simple mindset shift where you go, I can actually learn these things. And it's not going to impact my art negatively, but it's actually something I'm probably going to be required to do with this new responsibility that's been given to me. It's like, okay, I've been given all the keys to the castle. Now I got to go open all the doors and, get things rocking and rolling. So it's going to be up to you to like commit to learn these things. And so I hope you've gotten a ton of value from this video and now you understand the difference between the music business and the music industry and why we should strive to be as independent from the industry as possible and focus entirely on creating songs that connect with people and a business that allows us to have a career around that art. So if you got some value from this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the like button, notification bell, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this difference. And also, if you're looking to get some one-on-one help with your music business, we do have a couple of slots open this month. So there's a link in the description to apply for a coaching call if that's something you're interested in. So I look forward to seeing you guys on another Musicians Ignite. Take care.